Hello, my name is Andrew, and these are the Realfoot Natural Runner, the best extra wide barefoot shoes for running and cross training. My first ever barefoot road running shoe was the Vivobarefoot Primus Lite, and while it's still one of my top picks 8 years later, the toe box is definitely a little more on the slim side. So Realfoot really saved the day for anyone with larger feet, because the Natural Runner has an extra wide toe box with soft suede accents, mesh panels for breathability, and sneaker style flat laces, as well as a padded ankle to prevent rubbing, perforated lining for airflow, and removable insole for extra padding. Underneath, you've got a thin 4mm zero drop sole with excellent flexibility in all directions that's stitched for durability, plus a minimal tread that's grippy on roads, but tough enough for some light trails. Having actually done some casual trail running in my Realfoot Trekker high boots, I figured the Natural Runners would be great on roads too, which was definitely the case for walking because they've got the same tread and it laid down nicely going on long city walks, even across hard, smooth surfaces like concrete. Plus with the suede and mesh combo, I found out a really nice balance for both warm and cold days. Heading out for a run, I never once tripped on the extra wide toe box despite having medium width feet, thanks to the excellent ground feel and flexibility of Realfoot's 4mm sole. And in general, they felt really similar to my Vivobarefoot Primus Lites, just with a little more room up front. Another nice thing about the tread is that it worked well on light trails, as long as I wasn't going on like super sharp rocks or steep slippery hills. Although if I was trying to shave off time for an actual race, I'd probably use something slimmer that was a little bit closer to the shape of my actual foot. Similarly, the Realfoot Natural Runner had some nice versatility for lifting and cross training with the sock-like midfoot and padded heel, but there's not as much structure for extreme side-to-side movement. And the synthetic lining was more prone to storing body odor than natural materials. Overall, the Realfoot Natural Runner is an excellent option for cross training and running in all 4 seasons. But if you're looking for a regular width cross trainer, this is the Vivobarefoot Primus Lite knit. I like this one better than the original Primus Lite because the knit's a bit more comfortable. It's very stretchy, doesn't rub on the inside. It's also a little bit wider up in front, and the top pieces are a little more flexible than the Primus Lite, although the original does have some better breathability with more mesh panels. However, I do love that you can just slip it on. That's really convenient. And in terms of the sole, it's 4mm, so very similar to Realfoot. It's a little bit more oriented towards just roads and maybe a little bit of gravel, but not really trails. They do have some denser panels here where you're gonna have a lot of rubbing though. And if you're wondering how this sole wears, it's very good. This is 8 years old. This is my original Primus Lite, and it's lost a little bit of definition, but overall still feels great. And this is what I'm talking about with the mesh. You know, there's just more airflow in here than the knit version, but the knit does work better in colder weather. If you want something that's more cross-training specific, this is the Lono Flow. This is the original. They also have the Lono Flow S, which stands for strength, which is even more reinforced on the side, but has a nice wide toe box in front. It's a good option for anyone who has bunions or just wider feet in general because this material is very stretchy up top. Also nice and soft where your toes are, so there's nothing pressing on top. And then they've got a nice lacing system. They sort of put the knot off to the side so that when the shoe bends, you know, if you're doing yoga or anything like that, you're not getting any pressing on the top of your foot, but it's also one that you can slip into. The ankle feels really nice and stretchy. Plus they've got this cool divot here, which can be a problem with some glued soles because if they get too much pressure here, it can cause the sole to separate. But because they have this V shape, when you bend it like this, it doesn't put any pressure on the sole. In terms of the sole, it's 4mm plus 2mm of padding for 6mm total. So it feels just a little bit softer than the others. If you're a beginner who wants a shoe that's good for transitioning, this would be a nice option to start with. And I like that it's got these little grippy spikes at the front. It's kind of like having a pair of track spikes, so they're nice for sprinting. And overall, a very flexible sole, even though it's a little bit thicker than the others, but the rubber's not quite as grippy on wet terrain. For a budget-friendly option, this is the Freet Vibe. Also has a wide toe box, but I like that it's a little bit more squared off here. And it has a mesh upper, but it's double layered, kind of like Realfoot, so it has some nice versatility for multiple seasons. Plus the laces lock down really well on top, and then it's got some nice padding around the heel, kind of like the Natural Runner. And for the sole, it's also 4mm, very flexible, but the tread offers a little bit more versatility for trails, kind of like Realfoot. The lugs are maybe even just a little bit deeper, and some good surface area as well if you're going on more rocky terrain. And finally, one of my personal favorites is the Vibram V-Trek. It's got a wide toe box, but because of the separate toes here, it almost becomes extra wide. It's also got a wool blend upper upper, so it's very breathable despite not having any mesh like the others. And the upper comes up a little bit higher, so it provides some protection from getting sticks and stones and dirt and stuff in there. And for the sole, it's 4 millimeters like the others, but there is just a little bit of padding in there, which gives you a little more protection on trails. Then I also love having separate toes because it feels so natural and you just get a little bit smoother roll down and better ground feel. Plus, Vibram rubber is one of the most grippy and durable in the world, although there's enough surface area as well that it feels great both on roads and trails. However, because of the separate toes, it's not a good option for cold, wet weather because if you step in even just a thin puddle, the water will go straight up through your toes. All right, so that's my take on the Realfoot Natural Runner, but if you'd like to support the channel, you can shop at the referral links down below, browse and filter more products with the shoe finder tool at my website barefootwear.org, or watch my zero drop transition video to learn more about barefooting. Finally, if you have a question about the Realfoot Natural Runner or about barefoot shoes in general, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.